Hello and welcome to RC Worlds, and thanks for stopping by. Sometimes you look over your RC collection and think about what you like to do next. I saw my TRX-4 and the Traxxas has. The truck was equipped with tires the last years. The Traxx rested behind it. I have to admit these were the initial reason why I bought this crawler. As long as I have other great working crawlers in a scale of 1/10, I thought, why shouldn't I put on the Traxx permanently? In the last 3.5 years I hadn't used them, so the TRX-4 will be now my winter truck. And then I had the idea for this video. So in this video I show you the first run after this long period, the maintenance and a checkup run after my work. So have fun with this video. To get an overview and not to rely on my feelings, I like to measure the following things: the max speed, the average speed, the running time, the battery voltage and the motor temperature. I know this isn't scientific, but to get an overview I like to use these simple measurements. For me this is enough and everyone can repeat it too. Further corner points are: the truck has a 35T Endura 550 motor. I use the Traxxas ID NIM 7S battery with 9.6 volts and a capacity of 3000 mAh. The only further things to mention are the aftermarket axles and portals. These might afflict the running compared to the original parts, but I don't think that these have a big influence because I use these for all my tests. Same might count for the lights on the Bronco. This power consumption might lower the running time compared to turned off ones. But as long as the lights stay on both runs, I can ignore this. I also turned off the sound module. The Bronco runs in low gear with locked differentials. This is what Traxxas also recommends. For the test track, I run up and down the street in front of our house and use the same turning points in every run. The street is slightly angled, so I go downhill first, turn, go the whole way uphill, then turn at the end, and again go downhill back to the starting point. Either I do 3 or 5 rounds to get better average results, or I stop as soon as the battery is drained out. The reason for going downhill first is that I want the motor to get slowly used to the job. To get repeatable results, I ran on a dry surface without obstacles. The outside temperature is around 10 degrees Celsius. This might affect the cooling of the motor, but I ignore this. The temperature measurement is only for safety. As soon as the motor gets extremely hot, I stop test. In the end I see if the results might count in the before and after evaluation. So let's see what results I get on the first run. And these are the results of the first run. I ran the whole time on full throttle. I did a route of 1447 feet. These weren't even 2 complete rounds on my test track, but all in all 18 minutes and 53 seconds. My speedo states a maximum speed of 3 miles per hour and 1 mph on average. The motor temperature went up from 18 degrees Celsius to 27 degrees. This is a good sign. The motor seems to have no problems with the Traxx. The battery started with 9.7 volts and ended with 3.6 volts under load. Now I had the measurements for the comparison after maintenance and the second run. The maintenance is really a job for someone who had beaten his parents to death, like we say here. I really wasn't motivated to do this. You have to disassemble, clean, grease and reassemble 8 ball bearings, 80 metal bushings and the same number of washers on all 4 tracks. But this is a have-to-do job if you're using the Traxx. Or someday you get 5 minutes out of one battery like in the good old days. Before I start with the maintenance of the Traxx, here are the tools for the job. The wrench for the cap of the drive wheel, 2 2mm hex drivers, and as grease I use WD-40 Specialist Dry Lubricant. It doesn't matter if you use the one with or without PTFE. Both have the same characteristics, with one difference. The grease with the PTFE can withstand temperatures up to 260 degrees Celsius. Without PTFE it's only up to 90 degrees. I don't think parts of the Traxx might ever get to these temperatures, unless you drive over lava or through a campfire. So without PTFE it's fine for me. And for sure you need water, cleaning alcohol and towels depending on the dirt the system has collected on your runs. The Traxx should be removed for the job. I found an easy and fast solution for this. Every Traxx has a shock which prevents the system from tilting around the axle. Each shock unit is mounted with 2 screws on each portal. These screws are hard to reach because of the space between the tracks, so I remove only the screw of the shock mount, which is easy to reach from underneath. After the shock is free, I put the screw back into place, so it cannot get lost. Now let's get to the Traxx. I show the repeating and boring work on one example and do the rest off cam. First, the big cap has to be removed. After this, the tracks can be removed. Each track is labeled on which of the 4 positions of the car it sits. You cannot mix them up if you remove all at one time. In the next step, you remove the screw which secures the extension arm of the system. After this, the arm can be tilted upwards and gives extra space to remove the rubber tracks. The next step is now to open the main drive wheels. Therefore, the rings on the inner and outer side had to be removed. After that, I cleaned the drive wheel, the ball bearings and the spots where they sit later again. Before reassembling, I spray the dry lubricant on every spot where moving parts are. You can wipe off excessive lubricant, but the rest will dry out by itself and grease the parts. That's a great advantage of this grease. It leaves behind a slippery but dry surface, which doesn't attract dirt. The contact zones between the inner part of the ball bearings and the axle will be lubricated when the tracks are mounted back into place. Now it's time for the rollers. Each pair is a unit of 1 axle, 4 shims, 4 bushings, 2 wheels and 2 screws. Each maintenance is very easy. Use the 2 hex drivers until 1 screw gets loose. Then remove, disassemble and clean all parts. The reassembly is also very easy. Take an axle, put the first shim onto it and grease the axle. Then grease one of the wheels, put the 2 bushings into it, attach the wheel to the axle and then the axle into the holder. After this, maybe another spray of grease on the open side, a shim, bushings into the wheel, wheel onto the axle, the last shim and put the screw into place. The first axle is done. Repeat this with the 19 axles left over. I'll see you later. Sorry, I hadn't filmed how I put the rubber bands back onto the system and screwed the extension arms back into place. It's just the disassembling in reverse and no rocket science. Before I put the tracks onto the car, I grease the inside of the ball bearings. The spray can has too much pressure for model use, so I remove the excess grease. Just keep an eye on that the contact areas are still wet when the tracks are remounted. The drive wheel has to be adjusted a little bit and then the unit slips in place. Just screw the cap on and reinstall the shock on the inside. And after 2 to 4 hours, the tracks should be done. I recommend to wait with the first run until the next day, so the dry lubricant can sit down and, you guess it, get dry. Before I get to the evaluation, let's see which results I got from the run after the maintenance. Again, I ran the whole time in low gear and with locked diffs on full throttle. I did a route of 1591 feet. The running time was 20 minutes and 35 seconds. This is an improvement. My speedo states a maximum speed of 1 miles per hour and the same on average. The motor temperature went up from 16 to 26 degrees Celsius. The battery started at 9.6 volts and ended with 3.5 volts under load. What is the interpretation of these numbers now? First, I got more running time and distance after my maintenance. If I set the numbers into relation, this means 9% more time and 10% more distance. Almost the same increase on both values. The max speed of 3 miles per hour on the first run I don't take serious. I hadn't put the car in high gear or noticed an increase of speed. I think this is a counting mistake of the speedo due to the slow speed between the houses. The device cannot notice decimal places, but in this case these were interesting to know. You might be wondering about the voltage of my battery and why an 8.4 volt battery has 9.6 volts. 8.4 volt is the nominal voltage of the battery, but the charger fills up the battery up to its final charging voltage, which is between 1.4 and 1.6 volt for each cell. So this is fine as the battery is in the same range at each run. On my second test it was 0.1 volt under the first, at the beginning and at the end, so this fits too and is comparable. Third, I counted the last voltage value under the load in both runs. This means full throttle and full steering. As soon as I released both controls, the voltage went up to 8.7 volts again. but the battery was drained out, so this value doesn't count. A LiPo even would have shut down the car earlier. So in this case and in my interpretation, a NIM battery is a weapon of choice for the Traxx. And for sure the right programming of the ESC. Fourth and last point, as I said before, the motor temperature is fine and nothing to worry. So there's nothing to mention here. This was everything for the reuse of the Traxx after 3.5 years. The maintenance was necessary and helped, although it took me a long time of boring and repeating work. I also think that the Traxx need more runs to keep the rubber flexible. The circumstance that the Traxx take over the shape in which they rested might have influenced the results too. So far I'm happy with the comparison, although 20 minutes and almost 1600 feet on one battery aren't numbers you want to have when you are going out for a trailing run. Even my Beluga runs over 4 hours. The maintenance gave me an improvement of 10% and that's the value I can work with. There are 2 things I like to try in one of my next videos. Ball bearings, yes you heard it right, and a battery with a higher capacity. And I'm also thinking about a set of deep terrain tracks. But this I decide when I went with my Bronco and the Traxx off-road. So stay tuned, this is gonna be interesting. I thank you for watching. If you got some questions, the comment section is yours. And as always, please like, share and subscribe. This will really help me out. See you soon on RC Birds.
I see birds flying high, cars are roaring, engines cry. From going slow to speed runs fast, moments building, memories last.